The air in the Canyon de Chelly, even in the heart of summer, holds a chill at night, a profound, ancient cold that seeps not just into your bones, but into something deeper. As a Navajo Tribal Ranger, I've seen some strange things out here, but nothing compares to the night I heard my own name called from the darkness. That was, without a doubt, my most terrifying night. It wasn't a coyote, it wasn't an echo, it was something else entirely. Something that knew me and shouldn't have. It's been years, but even now, the sound of it sends a spike of ice through my chest. That night, I learned that some things in the Navajo lands are best left undisturbed. Some shadows, once awakened, will absolutely follow you home. My name is Kaelen Begay, and I'm a Navajo Tribal Ranger. For those who don't know, Canyon de Chelly National Monument is a place of breathtaking beauty. Yes, but also profound spiritual significance for the Navajo people. It's our homeland, a sacred space rich with history, etched into the sandstone walls and carried on the wind. My job involves everything from search and rescue to archaeological preservation, and sometimes, simply being a guardian of this sacred land. Most nights are quiet, a symphony of crickets, the rustle of juniper, and the distant cry of a coyote. But this particular night, about 5 years ago, was different. It started like any other late summer evening. The sun had dipped below the western rim, painting the sky in fiery oranges and deep purples, and the long shadows were stretching their fingers across the canyon floor. I was on a routine patrol, checking on some remote pictograph sites that had been reported as potentially vandalized. I parked the truck a good distance from the site and continued on foot, flashlight in hand. The air was still warm from the day, but a distinct coolness was beginning to creep in from the canyon walls. I walked for about 20 minutes, the beam of my flashlight cutting a solitary path through the encroaching darkness. The pictographs were, thankfully, untouched. As I stood there, examining the ancient artwork, a sudden, inexplicable sense of unease washed over me. It wasn't the usual ranger's caution. It was something far more primal, a cold whisper against my skin that told me I wasn't alone. I paused, listening. The usual night sounds were muted. Even the crickets seemed to have fallen silent. The only thing I could hear was the frantic thumping of my own heart in my ears. I slowly swept my flashlight beam across the canyon wall, then out into the darkness of the trail behind me. Nothing, just an oppressive, heavy silence. But that wasn't the part that still keeps me awake. I shook off the feeling, attributing it to an overactive imagination fueled by the solitude and the ancient energy of the place. I started back towards my truck, my pace a little quicker now. That heavy feeling of being watched intensified with every step. I kept glancing over my shoulder, convinced I would see something in the periphery of my vision, a fleeting shadow darting behind a rock. But there was never anything there, just the deepening darkness and the growing sense of dread. About halfway back, I stopped dead in my tracks. From somewhere behind me, echoing off the canyon walls, came a sound. It wasn't loud, more of a soft, drawn-out whisper. It was my name, Kaelen. It was a voice, yes, but not a human one. It was distorted, elongated, as if spoken through water, or carried on a very long, very cold wind. It had an unnatural quality to it that I can only describe as wrong. My blood ran cold. I didn't know it then, but that moment was a warning. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run, but my feet felt rooted to the spot. I spun around, shining my flashlight wildly into the darkness, my breath catching in my throat. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice barely a croak, trying to sound braver than I felt. Only the silence answered, thick and heavy, pressing in on me from all sides. The air grew colder, and I could see my breath fogging in front of me, even though it wasn't that cold of a night. Then I heard it again, closer this time, a rustling in the dense scrub brush off to my left. It was a rhythmic sound, like something heavy being dragged, or something very large moving slowly, deliberately, towards me. My heart hammered against my ribs, a drumbeat of pure terror. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that whatever was out there, it wasn't an animal, and it wasn't human. I finally found my legs and began to run, stumbling over roots and rocks in the dim light of my flashlight. The rustling sound continued, seemingly keeping pace with me, always just out of sight, always too close. I could hear my own ragged breathing, loud and panicked in my ears. I didn't dare look back. I just ran, fueled by an adrenaline I hadn't known I possessed, focused solely on reaching the safety of my truck. The distance felt endless. Every shadow seemed to twist and writhe. Every rustle of leaves sounded like a hungry whisper. I was convinced that at any moment, something would lunge out of the darkness and grab me. My mind raced, trying to find a rational explanation. A lost hiker? An animal? But the voice, the way it had spoken my name, it defied all logic. When I finally burst through the last line of scrub and saw the familiar shape of my patrol truck, a wave of relief so intense it almost buckled my knees washed over me. I fumbled with the door handle, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip it. I yanked the door open, threw myself inside, and slammed it shut, locking it instantly. My chest heaved, and I leaned my head back against the seat, trying to catch my breath. I switched on the headlights, their powerful beams cutting through the darkness, illuminating the empty landscape in front of me. I sat there for a long moment, the engine idling, the only sound the frantic beating of my heart. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, a trick of the mind. But then I saw it. In the rearview mirror, barely visible at the very edge of the headlight's reach, there was a shadow. It was tall, impossibly thin, and it stood perfectly still, watching the truck. It wasn't a shadow cast by a tree or a rock. It was a deeper darkness, a void in the night itself. It had no discernible features, just a vaguely human-like silhouette against the slightly less dark background. And as I stared at it, frozen with terror, I felt a wave of crushing despair, a suffocating sense of being utterly helpless. It was then that I realized something truly terrifying. It hadn't just followed me. It had been waiting for me to turn around. This next part, I still can't explain. Hey, if you're enjoying this story, and if you're brave enough for more unsettling tales from the wilderness, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more true horror stories. We've got a whole playlist dedicated to scary encounters. After this video, be sure to check out 12 Scary Park Ranger horror stories that will give you nightmares for even more chilling accounts from those who patrol the wild. Now, back to Kaelen's terrifying encounter. I tore my eyes away from the mirror, slamming the truck into reverse and then forward, spinning the wheel wildly, desperate to get out of there. I didn't care about the rough road. I just wanted distance, as much distance as I could get between me and that thing. I sped down the dirt track, the tires kicking up a massive cloud of dust behind me, checking the rearview mirror constantly. For a few agonizing minutes, I saw nothing but the swirling dust. Then, as I rounded a bend, the dust settled for a moment, and I saw it again. It was further back now, standing in the middle of the road, still and dark, watching me go. It wasn't running. It was simply there. It felt like it was playing with me, letting me think I was escaping, only to reappear and remind me that it was always present. I drove faster than was probably safe, my mind a blur of fear and confusion. What was that thing? What did it want? The questions pounded in my head, unanswered, fueling the terror. I didn't stop until I reached the paved road leading out of the monument, and even then, I kept glancing in my mirrors, half expecting to see that impossibly dark silhouette appear on the horizon. The sun was just beginning to peek over the eastern mesas when I finally pulled up to my small home on the edge of the reservation. I remember stumbling out of the truck, feeling utterly drained, both physically and emotionally. The fear lingered, a cold knot in my stomach, a phantom sensation of eyes watching me from every shadow. I went inside, locked all the doors and windows, and sat in the living room until the sun was fully up, painting the world in warm, reassuring light. Only then did the intensity of the terror begin to recede, replaced by a deep, unsettling confusion. I didn't tell anyone what happened that night, not for a long time. How could I? What would I say? That a faceless shadow called my name and followed me home? They'd think I was crazy, or worse, drunk. But the experience changed me. I became more attuned to the subtle shifts in the canyon, the whispers of the wind, the way the shadows danced. I started noticing things, small, unexplainable details that I would have dismissed before. A cold spot in a warm room, a faint whisper that seemed to have no source, a fleeting glimpse of something in the periphery that vanished when I turned my head. It never directly confronted me again. Not in the same way, but I felt its presence, sometimes like a prickle on the back of my neck. Later, I learned what really happened. Through hushed conversations with elders, through fragments of stories and ancient warnings, I pieced together what I could. They spoke of the Skinwalker, a malevolent entity from Navajo folklore, a witch who has gained the ability to transform into, or possess, an animal. But sometimes, they are said to appear in a distorted human form, a shadow, a mimic. They feed on fear, on negative emotions, and they are drawn to those who are alone, those who wander too far into certain places at night. The voice calling my name, the mimicking of human speech, it all fit. It was trying to lure me, to disorient me, to play with my fear. There's a reason rangers don't talk about this, not openly. To speak its name too freely, to acknowledge it, is to invite its attention. I still work as a tribal ranger, but I carry that night with me, a constant reminder of the unseen forces that exist within our sacred lands. I'm more careful now, more respectful of the ancient boundaries, more aware of the spiritual energies that permeate the Canyon de Chelly. I never go out alone at night anymore without taking certain precautions, carrying certain blessings, whispering prayers. The experience taught me humility and a profound respect for the unknown. It taught me that there are things in this world that defy explanation, things that exist just beyond the veil of our understanding, waiting in the shadows. And sometimes, if you're not careful, those shadows will reach out, and they will follow you home. If this chilling tale of the unknown has left you wanting more, then you're in luck. There are countless other true stories of encounters with the unexplained, especially in the vast, untamed wilderness of our national parks and tribal lands. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And for a truly terrifying deep dive into similar encounters, be sure to check out our playlist, 12 Scary Park Ranger Horror Stories that will give you nightmares. Until next time, stay safe out there and remember, not all shadows are just shadows.